the Fukushima fear and fishmongers. In 2011, the same year as the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster in Japan, the Japanese legal limit in cows was 500 becquerels per kilogram, and meat from 11 cows shipped to Tokyo, Japan, within the same country from Fukushima Prefecture, were found to have 1,500 to 3,200 becquerels per kilogram of Cesium-137. You have to look up what Cesium-137's half-life is. Alright? Alright, that was in the same year, and their limit was 500. So this was massively bad. Alright, that makes sense. That was within the same year. Figure out the half-lives. You can look them up, or I'll just tell you them in a minute, but just hold that thought. That's Cesium-137. Alright? It's a 30-year half-life. But let's assume, even though we don't have to, that it was Fukushima. It probably was because of where the cows came from. Where is the zone of access? Now, you don't assume here's Fukushima and way the hell over here is Seattle or Washington or Portland, Oregon, and you have to measure it there. You measure it to see how it gradiates, the gradation of it. And you're going to have to measure from the seafloor bottom because these are heavier elements, and you should find them on the seafloor. Why are you testing the water? Why not actually look for the shit? You should be able to find it in a very high concentration here, and it should be lower and lower and lower. And immediately after this, no one is arguing whether or not the stuff was in the air and went all over the place. Why are you concentrating on fish and seawater tests? Because you can lie about them more, I guess, but let's talk some more. In 2013, Huffington Post said that Malcolm Foster made the assertion that he had gotten information from a single anonymous utility official he wouldn't name that a single bottom-dwelling fish called a greenling was found near the plant, and it had 740,000 becquerels per kilogram of radioactive cesium, but it didn't specify what isotope and did not name the isotope. And the government limit at that point was 100 becquerels per kilogram because of the fact that, and I'm going to point this out really quickly, is that the 30-year half-life of Cesium-137, if it was that one, from nuclear attacks, because we bombed Japan, and also Pacific Ocean weapons testing from 1950s to the 1960s, has jacked up the rating to where that's considered acceptable and or background. But yes. But the trouble is, Huffington Post said Malcolm Foster said this, and then they deleted the article without comment because no one backed this up with any other testing. A non-repeatable test result is a worthless one. Find another bottom-feeding fish, feeding from the bottom where the radioactive material would have settled, and yeah, that's a great test. There only one fish? No one can simply go along, capture some fish, and get them tested. Oh, people did. They didn't find this repeatable. Huffington Post finally deleted the article. It was an Associated Press article. Malcolm Foster is pretty good for a lot of things, but, well, we have to cite a utility official. A utility official? Which utility? Oh, we know what he means. No, we do not. But yeah, that would be a significant characteristic, and it is exactly what you would test, and has been tested. And bottom-feeding fish really close to the plant show excessive levels, but they don't show it more than actually 10 miles out, they don't show any goddamn increase. Hiroshima and Nagasaki were bombed with atomic warheads, and we set off nuclear warheads in the ocean. The United States dropped thousands of bombs on itself and in the ocean. Let's ignore that. No, blame Fukushima for any level of a 30-year half-life. Okay, what about Cesium-134, which has a 2-year half-life and would be a really good example? They do seawater tests. Which would mean it would automatically drop. Okay, do it as a test in the mud. Gonna do that? Do any of the greenies do any testing for that? Do any of you anti-nuke people test for something easy? Oh, well, you're excluded. No. Nobody sealed any of this. No one sealed Barack Obama's history of being a student in college. Trump erased his history. Remember, reality is something you lie about because it's inconvenient. Hockey stick mode. Anyway, here we go. Hockey stick in your butt. By the way, seriously, I think soccer would be more entertaining if they used sledgehammers or even better, maces. But anyway, let's get on with it. No, seriously. 8-day half-life iodine 131 from 2011 Fukushima wasn't really any interest at 10 weeks because of the half-life. It's almost 1/1000th as of 10 weeks. So people don't bring that up, but originally they did because they were trying to sell you anti-radiation pills that weren't iodine. They were selling you poultices and homeopathy because there's a business in lying to you about health effects of every damn thing. Nobody ever tells you the truth about the mercury that comes out of a smokestack burning coal because that's an inconvenient fact. So you'd have to look for Cesium 134 specifically. It's not chemically testable as being different because Cesium 137 would chemically react the same way. And stop doing seawater samples. But yes, they may have come from the 2011 Fukushima output. But as of 2019, you'd have to be able to acknowledge that it would be at 1/16th the level because that's the half-life of it. If you see an excessive leak material, if you see excessive ratios, then that couldn't be from Fukushima unless you were saying it was a new leak, which means you'd find a higher concentration near the plant, not further away. You do know that lots of countries still dump radioactive waste in the ocean and lie about it, right? It's the Pacific Ocean. The Chinese, North Koreans, Russians, they don't dump nuclear waste in the ocean at all. Of course not. And the Chinese and other groups wouldn't deliberately go off the coast of Japan and deliberately dump a radioactive mass, which they got caught doing a couple of times, because they want to kill everybody, because they're not psychos who are constantly under absolute all-out war when no one's attacking them. They live off of paranoia. Of course they're going to do shit like that. It's a form of bioterrorism, or in this case, radioactive terrorism. But no, that doesn't happen. That's never happened. What countries dump radioactive waste overboard in the Pacific Ocean, and why aren't you blaming them? Because you don't give a shit about the fish, or the Pacific Ocean, or the Pacific Northwest. You give a shit about being anti-nuclear power plant, not anti-nuclear power. The nuclear powers on this planet are the United States, Russia, China, and unfortunately North Korea. And that's about, I mean, I think Japan has some, right? No, it's the nuclear power plants, not people deliberately dumping radioactive isotopes because they don't want to bury it. They don't even dump it into the Marianas Trench or anything like that, where it would literally be so deep it probably couldn't affect anything. No, they look for a shelf somewhere to screw up some country. Hey, remember that time that North Korean El Presidente for life decided that it'd be a good idea to drop an unarmed nuclear warhead near Japan? No, that's totally okay. You anti-nuke people don't concentrate on actual nukes anymore. You concentrate on power plants that did not cause a nuclear disaster. Yes, it was a disaster. I agree, it's a disaster. But the death toll was from earthquakes and tsunamis, not radiation poisoning. And having that bashed into your skull with a little tiny mallet really slowly by people like me is a joy forever for everybody. Because pounding the truth into your head and making it echo forever in your soul to where it torments you, to where you can't get a good night's sleep because you're just not memeing hard enough, that is a wonderful thing. Thank you for giving me a purpose in life, to make liars miserable. And yeah, the video is going to get flagged for abuse, just like the last 10 times. YouTube has actually started listening to appeals when someone says, I'm harassing somebody. And I state to them, the purpose of the video and the content of it, if you watched it, ... would be obvious that I wasn't harassing somebody. Not an individual person or even a class or group that's protected. I'm harassing charlatans and liars. I'm willing to admit that. Why don't they admit they're doing the harassment of normal people? Why aren't they flagged? Why do they get away with shit and I can't just point out they're pulling it? Well, I can. Things have changed on YouTube. All I get is we've corrected our error. Thank you very much for not actually making the video not visible, but just deranking it. Check your emails and check your channel status and see if it has any flaggings. It may quietly derank you without actually affecting the account, hoping you won't notice, but there's an appeal button. Hit it.